And it's after 1 o'clock, so I think we call the meeting to order with the quorum noted. Absences so far are Jean Hurley.
No, Jean's on. Jean's on.
Jean's on.
Hey, good. So we don't have, do we have any absences? No, that's everybody. Oh,
I guess we do, yes.
Mark is not on.
Mark is on. Well, somebody's dialing in now.
All right, well, let's give him a minute. Hey, Jean, how are you?
Well, that was Alan Affleck. Good morning, Alan Affleck.
This afternoon.
Alan's up in his lodge on the lake.
How do you spell Alan's last name?
Oh, go ahead, Alan. I don't hear you, Alan, so I'll spell it for you. It's
The connection is extremely poor.
I'm sorry, Jack. You may want to hang up and dial in again. Affleck is A-F-F-L-E-C-K.
Is that Alan with an A or an E?
It's Alan with 2 L's and an A.
No E or A?
Yeah.
She's not too big.
So, Bez, I think you've got everybody you need.
Oh, I think we're more full than we've been in a while. This is wonderful. So we'll call the meeting to order. We do have the first order of business is the approval of last month's minutes. We did have one input regarding those minutes. And are there any board members that want to make corrections or additions? If not,
I move the minutes stand approved as submitted.
We have one more okay. Are there a second?
Second.
I'm going to open this for discussion because I think there may be one input from Liz Tidyman. Liz, are you on?
Thank you.
She has to unmute her
I
phone.
am on the call and I have no need to speak to this.
Okay. Thank you very much, Liz. I just wanted to give you that opportunity. So we have a motion seconded approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Well, we got minutes, Ann. You did good. That's your first minute, huh? Okay.
Just since I'm new and don't recognize all voices, if somebody's making a motion, could they please give their name?
Oh, thank you, Ann. That's good.
And a second, also their name, please.
It was Walsh, but it's all right.
And was that
both of those, Ann?
Was it Matheson that made the motion?
Yes,
that is correct.
Thank you.
We do not have a treasurer on the phone today. We did have the latest financial statements distributed, though, as part of the minutes. Are there any comments regarding those financials?
No.
Yeah, leave it up on the balance sheet, if you would, for a minute, Jack.
Okay, balance sheet. All right.
On the balance sheet, everybody should note that the change in net assets during this period, this is cumulative to date, 23,000 was the change. A lot of that, most of that, was as a result of a donation by Jack. I suppose most of you know that as well. But I wanted to point it out, as well as we do have a little operating margin happening to us each month. And if you'll flip to the next income statement, you'll see that. The monthly actual for the month of May, we were sitting at a revenue of 5,000, a little over 5,000, total operating expenses of 2,800 for a positive increase in net assets of 2,300. I bring that up because, as you know, last year we did experience a loss.
Well, yeah, you've got to bear in mind, though, that our big expenses come when those in-person meetings occur. So that 2 months of the year that offset. So looking at it one is not terribly meaningful. And this is principally just cash flow. This is not accrual accounting.
That's right. And the other comment I was going to make is that this is setting a stage for what we're going to talk about a little later on item 5, which is the additional expense that'll take place with regard to partners. But anyhow, are there any, can we accept those minutes? Can I have a motion for acceptance of the treasurer's report?
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Yes.
Chair,
Yes.
Liz Tidyman would like to offer 2 questions on the financial report.
Okay. All right.
And I don't wish the board to use airtime on them. I simply wish to name the questions.
All right. That's fine.
Thank you.
You want to refer to the treasurer, no doubt.
Okay, that'll be fine. Number 1, has the board seen a 2017 budget? And number 2, I'm not seeing a line item for legal fees, and you note an operating margin is occurring. I'm wondering what the financial situation of NaCCRA would have to be before it would start investing in qualified legal counsel. Thank you.
I think I can speak at least to the first item. We're in a state of transition in our financing. So the treasurer has not had, and a budget reflects a strategic plan. We're in the process of transitioning our membership administration and a number of other moving pieces, including what we're going to discuss today with item 5. So the treasurer thought that in the absence of a stabilized organization that had clear operating vision, that it was best to defer the making of a budget, which is to authorize spending, and to keep a close watch on funds until such time is there. As for the services of an attorney, if we could find a pro bono attorney, as Washington State has done, that would be outstanding. And I wonder if Liz would explore whether the Washington State attorney who provides the pro bono work for NaCCRA would be willing to support us. We certainly could use legal advice.
Okay, with Jack's comments, we'll put the transition both of those questions to the treasurer.
Yeah, I move that we receive the financial statements as given to us by Lanigan.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it. Walsh.
Walsh, okay, so Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, aye.
Opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay, let's move on to the next item. Now, the next item is an I'm a go now. And I want to start off by talking to the spreadsheet that you were all provided. And in that spreadsheet, I'm going to click to it. Will I have control of it, Jack, or will you have to do it for me?
Well, I'll surrender. Let me stop my share. Okay, now if you go down on the bottom and click on share screen, you can share your screen, Basil.
Okay. And share screen. Okay.
So we've got it.
Does everybody see it? I don't see it.
But we don't see your Excel spreadsheet. We see your screen. You've got to open Excel.
Oh, I've got to open it. Okay? That's fine. I'll go get it. I know where it is. You were hoping I wouldn't find it. I know.
I knew you would.
All right. Okay. Okay, so you all can see this now, and I'm going to start it off to the left, and it'll be a bit of a tutorial, but in my scheme of things, all I was really trying to do with this document was to capture what all I've been hearing in one document so that we can all have the same view of what's going on. And that's on the first sheet of this, it just tells you what's in this work book. The one most important for the members here, I think, are the priorities list. Now, if you scroll to the top of this, during the last week, we have activated 2 committees. The one committee, which we've talked about in terms of membership, and that's membership job 1, so it's priority 1, and there's a number of actions underneath that we'll be dealing with through 2017. Priority 2 is a dues structure item. Priority 3 is rebates, which will come later. And then 4 is to develop an integrated branded presentation of print and digital information for NaCCRA constituents. And so this is going to be talked about on item 5 today, but this information was provided to each board member. There's nothing magic about it. It's just my way of trying to get everything in front of everybody so that we can talk about it. And so the 5 is New Orleans, which is the next item on the agenda. And so the New Orleans Engage Conference is going to play a part in our future. So that's number 5. And then also both our meetings and Leading Age. So, and Ruth is kind of the head of that particular thing. Under each of the major initiatives, there's an expansion of that. I've just moved one tab to the right and identified membership promotion. And this week, I invited a number of people to be part of that. Ron Whalen, Jack Cumming, I've heard from Kim, and a number of you have said yes, but I haven't got total responses, but I will try to set up a meeting for that membership drive group. The next item is the dues structure. Not much there to talk about yet. Same way with rebate. We haven't done much there. Member data bank is something Jack is doing in conjunction with partners and the developer for a management information system. And then the communications editorial committee is the next box over. There are things that Ruth sent out an invitation this week to begin the work of that committee, and these are the people who she's identified for part of that. The New Orleans Congress is next. The New Orleans events are next. So if you want to know what we've tentatively scheduled for New Orleans, there it is on that spreadsheet. So everybody here should have a copy of that. Now, whether you can deal with Excel spreadsheets, I realize may cause some problems. But my purpose here, and the reason I'm devoting part of the meeting to it, is I'd like to have a document which kind of orchestrates the actions of our board, of our leadership, that kind of is able to focus us in the same direction. Nothing in concrete. Everything is a work in process. But I forget things. I don't know about you, and if I don't have it written down and in some safe place, it can go awry for me. So that's all this document is intended to do. It is intended to move us into something. And if anyone here, any member that's on this call, would like any kind of input into that, we welcome it. And if it's a part of a committee, like a membership committee or the communications editorial, you know the chairs, and the chairs are willing to take inputs on that. So can I answer any questions at this point? This is kind of a brief overview, but at any rate, it's kind of where I am on this document. Hopefully it'll be something we can all salute and play with over time that will create the kind of NaCCRA that we all deserve and want to provide to our members.
Now, this is Bob Nicholson in Seattle. Thank you very much, Basil, for this. It's not only where you are, but it's where we are, and it lays out a path forward that has productive elements that will get us down the road where we need to be.
Thanks, Bob. Other comments?
And I agree with Bob. It's just so very, very gratifying to see that we're trying to get ourselves into a very coherent interface with residents, with people who are looking at CCRCs and this sort of thing. So we're path seems to be very well taken, and we're doing well.
Okay. Any questions about how to work with it? Any questions about how to interface?
One of the things I noticed is that nowhere on this does it say that we're going to go back to making a leaflet handout or a brochure. When Bob Nicholson was the chairman of membership, he never went anywhere without a handful of brochures. And when I was recruiting people to join NaCCRA, I put a copy of, the threefold in everybody's box, and then a separate plea to join. So I think that I haven't seen a copy of the brochure, and I don't know since when, the last couple of years anyway.
The best place I know, Gene, to respond to you, I want to take you back to the priorities tab. Can you, the one that's up on my screen? Because then part of what we need to do is to create a community membership promotional package. Obviously, that bifold or trifold has been the cornerstone of that. Bob used it very effectively. We used it last year at Indianapolis at the fruit. But right now, we haven't redone that at all. The only way.
But this is Ruth here. That's in the process of being studied to see what more we can add, what we can do to enrich that one. So it's in process.
I don't remember seeing any in Indianapolis.
There were several brochures, including a superior one that was done by Jack Cumming, and so we're going to try to look at that, revamp what needs to be revamped, and proceed on from there. But there will be brochures for Indianapolis for sure, and for all of our prospective members.
For the leadership here, what can be done today is out on NaCCRA.com. There is the bifold, and it is in color, and you can print it. And we've tried to work that here at Village on the Green. And the only reason I've done it here and devoted the energy to it is I want to make sure by hands-on I have something that we can talk about. And we can those and carry them to the 7 meetings that we've had here, and printed a number of them locally. But you can download that document with the application form attached and off the website. Now, that's not perfect. We do need to have those things printed. But for right now, that is a way of getting around that, and it should work at least at Village on the Green for that purpose.
Jack Matheson speaking. It's extremely difficult to enlist new members, whether it's a temporary or permanent brochure. But in the absence of that, that's what people ask for when they're considering membership.
Yes. Okay. Good input, Jack.
This is,
and like I said, Ruth can take that to this group. And if you look at the front of the top of this document, creating this membership promotional package does include, and maybe we need to change that and make sure that it specifically requires that document, but that is part of that initiative.
Yes.
This is Ann. Is this the document?
Yes, you've got it. You've got it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. That's it.
Where are copies available, or do we just download it?
Download it the only way I know. We do not have a stack. When I did some traveling this summer and visited people in the Chicago area, the only thing I had was what I downloaded.
I thought Partners had a.
No, they're completely out, Jack. I did verify that.
Okay,
they are out.
They are. I can tell you that. And we need them. I won't argue that.
And we need them to let us know when they're running out of it. So so we stay, ready to solicit members.
Well, we probably,
Jack.
okay.
So, Jack, do you have any copies of your brochure? The one you did?
Well, I think I may. I just get them from Vista Print. So I'll look at that and we can talk about that offline.
Thank you.
Basil, Bob Nicholson here. I think behind this conversation is the call for each board member to step up to the plate. We live in communities that have computers and printers, and each of us find in fact, maybe this should be a direction to the president that he emailed each board member the brochure that they can click on, take to their printer in their community, and print out 100 copies and get started with membership recruitment.
Basically, we can do it without a problem at the village.
Yeah, we've done it here, so I'll take that. We'll take that on. That's a good point, and thank you. Just one of those other things I don't always think of and get on paper and on the to-do list. But that's a good point, Bob. Anything else? Okay, so this is the document. Now, the next thing on our agenda is worth talking about because it's going to really require some support. And on the tab, we've got something called No Congress, and it doesn't stand for no as in negative. It stands for New Orleans. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking and what I'm observing is that our state organizations, Florida has a little over 600 members. Washington has a little under 600 members. A lot of these state organizations are, really have a lot of dialogue amongst their membership, especially their leadership. It's nice to watch. But we have 2,100, almost 2,200 members, maybe more. I don't know the exact number today. And have very little interchange across the organizations, particularly in terms of taking inputs from our state and our community organizations. And my hope is that this Congress, which is probably too lofty a term, but it's all I could think of, is a way of engaging across our membership. So what I'm hoping happens is that on short inputs, we'll get swamped with too much data, but it seems like to me we could craft 3 or 4 questions that could be provided to our 10 state organizations and our 40-some community organizations, asking for one-page inputs on selected topics. In other words, what is it that the community XYZ can see as a role for NaCCRA? NaCCRA has some things to me that are very obvious that we can do. There's nobody else that can cross-feed best practices across all state organizations. That ought to be something that my state organization, FLICRA, would like to have. There are best practices in one of the organizations. So my feeling is open the dialogue across our membership, get the opportunity to have some dialogue so we can feel the power of 2,200 members. Perhaps, and I think it will have a generative capability as well. We all know that we need a lot more members, probably something around 20,000 to have a viable financial model in front of us.
Yep.
Without the energy of our community organizations and our state organizations behind us, it's very difficult to do that. So the first step in identifying what these members might promote to us, what might suggest to us, is simply opening the spigot for dialogue. Now, I realize that we're not going to have but a handful of people in New Orleans in present there for the Congress. But that doesn't mean we only got a handful of inputs.
Right.
We need, I think, to hear from those kinds of people. So this is just a vision of something I hope we can pull off, but that's it. And I wanted to put it in front of the board today. And Jack was good enough to give me a few minutes. He said even, what was it, 5 minutes? I probably shouted that down, but I wanted to be able to communicate kind of the vision of it and get your take. Is this something we can pull off? Can we make this work? Can we take advantage of the power?
Basil, Bob Nicholson in Seattle, buried in your comments were a subheading for the Congress, and that is catch the vision and feel the power. If our members, the 2,220 that we have, don't catch the vision and don't feel the power, we're not going to move forward. And I think this opens a door, creates a path that those members can feel heard and they can share their concerns and in the process be energized, because without their energy, we will not move forward.
Yes.
Well, this is Ann. I think rather than the focus on what you want from NaCCRA, I think if we put it in their framework of what are some of the issues you're facing in your state? Are there any proposed regulations on the horizon or proposed laws? What would you like to see? And share that among the states would be our contribution, is to be kind of the state relations broker to help people share information from other states, since that's where the action is at the state level for regulations and laws.
That's really good, Ann. That's a very good, because the way I was focusing it was focusing on the organization. You're saying change the focus to obtaining those things that are issues at the community level or at the state level, and those be then, if they're common, if the process at a number of locations become NaCCRA agenda and things we do for our membership. Is that going to capture it?
Right, and I think that at this point, because we do not have advocacy position at the national level, and we don't really anticipate any national legislation coming forth, I think our best role is to be kind of a state relations broker to share information across states and associations.
I think I'd like to speak to that a little bit. We are active at the national level. It may be in ways that are different from what Ann would consider national. For example, changing the accounting standards to have integrity is at the national level, and that's something that NaCCRA has made great strides with. Approaching the national office of the IRS is something that would not be in Congress, but it would still have tremendous effect on our members everywhere. And when we look at the state level, what happens in other states, as is, for example, what the legislation that the Office of Insurance Regulation in Florida is now putting together, they're not doing that in isolation. They're doing that in conversation with California and other states. And so that becomes a prototype that can help the states to understand what's coming, because the trend that the regulators want is to have a more kind of consistent regulation across the states. Yes, the actions at the state level, but not always in each individual state. They look to each other for understanding. So I think there's another aspect to that. But that said, I think this Congress idea is brilliant. It does support what Ann's vision is, which I think is an excellent one, of helping the people in the states to know what's happening. If a law is proposed in their state, has it already been discussed in another state? That can be enormously valuable, and I think it can also do what Bob said, which is to help people to feel the power which they don't now feel with the national organization. This is where the action should be, including for the states. If you go state by state by state, this is not going to work because the individual, it hasn't worked heretofore, because the individual states can divide, and that favors interests which are contrary to what's the best for the resident. So I think this is tremendously important. We're starting a website, NaCCRAcongress.com, which can host this interactive process, and will help the states to feel the power that is NACCRA's power.
Jack, let me ask this, Walt Boyer. Let me ask you, do you know to what extent NAIC is involved in the Florida legislation?
They have not yet chosen to involve the NAIC, but David Altmeyer, the commissioner there, is very active in the NAIC. The industry is opposing getting the NAIC involved because what they've done so far has worked well for them. The industry is not eager to step up to improve the integrity of the financial security that residents have. So they're in active opposition. That opposition is being financed and led by Ziegler and King Brothers.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I heard a speech by Steve Fleming a few months ago, and he was indicating that they were putting together a group to address these issues at their level and leading age. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And Steve Fleming, for those who don't know, is the CEO of Wellspring, and he's extending his authority and seeking to advance. But he's a skilled political leader. He's not as skilled in his managerial responsibilities for Wellspring.
I have some comments to make about this Congress.
Okay.
That we're focused on here. It seems to me that, Walt Boyer was in touch with the presidents who were members of NaCCRA, the members of the 10 states or whatever however many it is. And he got them in touch with one another regularly, at least last year, and maybe for the last 2 years. So, maybe this is the germ of a Congress. In the original minutes, on the board, if a community joined, they were entitled to have a member on the board. I don't think this was ever implemented, but the idea of having these people in regular communication with one another is a splendid idea. It's an old idea, and it needs to find a way to be implemented.
Well, Gene, we worked on this last year, and there really was not a lot of interest among the state presidents last year. One or two, New Jersey, Virginia, and North Carolina probably were the three that were most active. But other than that, there was not a lot of activity. So I think the idea is that Basil is coming up to regenerate that may help to get more of them aboard. And I'm hoping that he will be successful in that regard.
All we can do is push. And in response, I wanted, while the document was still up there, there's two things that I think will be useful for us in this regard, in addition to the obvious opening of dialogue. The second is that I think we ought to be able to identify leaders. The difficulty that we have in staffing out our board and identifying people that will, are the people who will succeed everybody that's on this call. And we need to do that. And we also need to build, I think, communication with communities. There are only 10 state organizations. There are 43 community associations. And the communities sometimes are more attuned to the issues and the things that affect residents who are our individual members than the state organization might be. The state seems to focus, as best I can tell, on legislation and things of that nature. But locally, at the community level, is where we get into issues that are of importance to individual members. So I'm thinking that by including, in addition to state members, and inviting representatives from the communities to participate, that we might be able to identify. I have no idea whether it will work or not, but it seems to me it's worth a try, because we simply have to, if we're going to make any progress, we've got to harness as the vision, maybe to use Bob's word, to harness the vision and get people who are willing to support us. And there's no secret that we got limited horizons for our professional life, and we have to identify younger people who are going to step in and carry that ball into the future. Only and by expanding our dialogue base, we might be able to do that. At least that's what I'm hopeful of.
Let's go for it and be supportive and be grateful that we've got the leadership we have, and do it.
No, I agree. And Basil, I think if you could stop your screen share now, which you do the same way you started it, or maybe it's up at the top to stop screen share.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to do that, but can I say one more thing before we quit? On the screens that you all see, there are 5 questions listed. What can NaCCRA do for you? Who can serve? Et cetera, et cetera. So if you've got questions, and Ruth's going to put this together, but we don't have forever, because we need to be asking people to address these things in the next couple of weeks. So if you've got any modifications to what we're thinking so far, please get them to us. We'll be all ears, I promise. Okay, and now I'll hit
Jack has a very valuable tool, the one that we here at Stone Ridge reproduce for all of our members. What's the name of it, Jack? Your little 2-page or 1-page little news thing. I lost what the title is.
The e-blast.
You're thinking of Notes and News?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's very valuable for the individuals and our, individual residents. They are very, very attuned to that. So that's something we should also think about expanding.
I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I think Basil has made a very important point that the action is at the community level, and we can help the states to build their membership if we cooperate together in providing resources that can help people at the community level. So that's an important thing for us to try to do moving forward. The other thing he mentioned, getting younger people involved, and I think we're doing that. We've got Liz Tiedemann has contributed helpfully or effectively to this conversation today. We've got Jennifer Young. We've got a younger group coming in. I think we may extend our thinking beyond people who are residents to get family members and others who care involved, so that we have legs and longevity, because otherwise we simply get outlasted, and that's unfortunately we're getting old and we tend to drop off the edge. So that's my thought.
Somebody
and that's a very excellent point.
Days ago, I'm an accountant, and they say, "Oh, accountants never die; they just lose their balance." And I'm waffling.
Well, we're losing our balance, that's for sure.
Okay, let's go. Is that enough on the Congress, Ruth?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, so
that's wonderful dialogue.
The next one is the editorial.
Before we move on,
yep,
there are a couple of things I'd like to comment on. One is that when I was the president of NaCCRA, the Virginia Association, I always go to the leading age meetings wherever they are since 2009. I was president in 2011, and I was asked to submit a report from the state at the fall meeting. And so I did, and the other states did. And these reports were printed in Lifeline, which I found to be a very valuable tool. Now I want to go back to the Virginia State Association. When we get together, one of the things we do is share best practices, that is, programs and practices that are developed by the residents of the various CCRCs and are carried out. That gives us an idea of what we can do in our own community. It's really very helpful and very interesting.
Thank you, Jane. Now, can we move to the next item, which is the editorial board implementation? Ruth Waltz, we got 10 minutes, but I think given recent actions that we really ought to start elsewhere. And you all have received emails today, at least a couple, regarding item 5 and the assumption of our, within item 5, the assumption of the editorial layout and publishing of our Lifeline. And so I want to open with that. Jack, can you put up the screen that so the changes to the partner contract? I want to have a word at the beginning of that, because obviously it's caused some disruption and maybe dissension amongst ourselves. But I've had a lot of dialogue in the 3 months I've been doing this with a lot of members and a lot of the leadership. And one of the things that I think I've learned, and by listening, is that infrastructure, while we can't NaCCRA, and we're on a very limited chain, is really important to the ongoing survival of NaCCRA. We have to simply be able to lean on people and an infrastructure that can do it. Kim Barley's always telling me that you can't have 80-year-old men bumping up and down the states beating the bushes for NaCCRA. I think that's probably true. By the same token, we don't have a lot of money. And at the center of this issue is our friend Jean Hurley. Jean's been doing our editorship for the Lifeline for some period of time. And the point is that as we move forward, I'm really hoping this board can recognize that there are times to just move forward and move into a different time and pass things that maybe were done by volunteers into a partner's contract. And that's what we put in front of you. This didn't really come to codification till Monday. And you know, Monday was not a work day very much in this United States of America.
That's correct.
A couple of us. It was a national holiday, but a couple of us spent a considerable period of time reviewing the bidding on this and a whole bunch of other things. But one of the products from that session was to revive the partner's contract, which will cost us money, and that's the reason it's in front of you for approval. That partners will modify the contract that we have with them. And the words you've been given, I think everybody on this call should have seen those words, but I'm going to read them just in case. The addition to what partners will provide is to receive the final proof copy of the Lifeline from the editor and/or the editorial board, submit such final proof to the printer, coordinate printing, oversee the mailing of the Lifeline to subscribers. They'll also coordinate printing and distribution of printed applications when requested by members or board volunteers for use in recruitment. Does that hit a responsive chord? You've heard that already. That's come up in the discussion today. But anyhow, that's the change to the contract. What will it cost us? Well, it'll cost us every month $300 a month to the end of this year. It'll also cost us for each publication $360 each time we publish. So we're going to have a couple bills that we wouldn't have otherwise, and I want to make sure the board understands that, because 300 times 6 is 1,800, right? No, it's 3,600, isn't it? six times so the remainder of the year, 300 a month, 1,800. I was right the first time, plus the 360 per edition. So that's the additional cost that's part of this action, and I just wanted to make sure you know that. Now, I'm going to move that we accept this contractual change. I hope to get a second, and then I'll open it for discussion. Do I have a second?
This is Jack. I'll just add one thing to it.
Okay.
We had a contract with Bennett that called for us to pay $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And it provided that we were to give 90 days notice if we're going to end that. Well, without doing that, we sort of ended it, and Bennett voluntarily reduced what he was charging us commensurate and reduced his services to $1,000 a month. And I thought we should, as an organization, is only as good as its integrity, and we never should have unilaterally just reneged on that contract. So I donated the funds to allow us to restore NaCCRA's contractual integrity. Bennett has now agreed that he's not going to draw down that money that he's entitled to. Instead, he's offering us a different arrangement retroactively, and so the $1,000 a month that he's been drawing down would continue. So the money that was donated to make him whole is now there to cover the $300 increment, and it would cover it for several years. So this is there in place. So our finances are not really adversely impacted. What we're doing, though, is recognizing that we do need to increase our fundraising and our dues income and our membership sufficiently so that we can afford ongoing professional services and hopefully services that we can come to pay for, such as Liz Tidyman this morning suggested that we need an attorney. There's no question that we need an attorney to look at things. Now, Bennett has used Eric Thorne, who is an attorney who works for partners, to play that role for us, but it's not at the level that we need, and Liz Tidyman's absolutely right in suggesting that. So I think this is an important move. This now regularizes our contract. We had given Bennett notice so that we'd have a chance to reform it. We recognize that this is an interim thing, but it's a very positive step that he's made, and I think that we should move forward with this until such time as we have the resources to begin to really build this. And in the meantime, another point that Bennett made is that we've spent so much time talking about things like what we pay partners, infrastructure, how things are produced, that we're not addressing the needs of the members, and they resent that. We must be strategic. We have our advocacy agenda now in front of us. A couple of things are in place. For example, that we want financially strong CCRCs so that people's entrance fees aren't absorbed in supporting a current generation of managers to the detriment of the residents' future security. We need our members to understand that we're doing these things for them, that they may not even realize where they're at risk. So this is an important step, and I'll enthusiastically second what Bennett's Basil's proposal, that we accept Bennett's proposal.
Okay.
So you have seconded that. Yes,
So
enthusiastically, yes.
Bob Nicholson in Seattle. I have a point of order, and I was called on this, Basil, myself, when I put a motion, and somebody said, well, the president can't put a motion. So if there are those who think that's a point of order, I will make the motion and heartily support it if that's appropriate, or I will third the motion, but I'm supporting the motion, and we need to move forward in this very critical area, and we have seen that it will be possible that we can do it without jeopardizing our budget.
I just,
Hello. I would like to go ahead and second his proposal.
okay. I'd just like to add something. First, Robert's Rules of Order are the rules from the British House of Commons, so we could have our own rules. But if you do look, the established rule is that the chair can make a motion. If the chair makes a motion, it doesn't require a second. There's no second required when the chair makes a motion because the chair is representing the whole of the community. However, it's usually those motions are things which are just of such general interest that it's a neutral position for the chair to make the motion as he did here. However, I think for the sake of form and appearance and the optics of it, why don't we acknowledge that Bob Nicholson made the motion, and did I hear Ruth seconded? Oh, Ken.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I think I'd like the record to show also that Jack Cummings straightened out Bob Nicholson once again.
Not really, Bob. Not really. You straighten me out every day.
Just,
pray for me, Bob.
just for the new secretary, I have Bob.
The new secretary has a problem.
May I have the floor for a second?
I'd just like to clarify that Bob Nicholson.
May I have the floor for a second?
After Ann finishes, Kim. Let Ann finish.
Bob Nicholson made the motion, and is Kim doing the second? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now Kim.
You know, I have been listening and not really intervening at all. And I've got to tell you something, and you need to pay attention. I've heard a lot of things today to be initiated. I haven't heard anybody say how it's going to be done. Now, if you're going to do a monthly magazine or whatever it is, who's going to do it? How is it going to be done? For example, you know, I went and asked my wife about this, who is a competent master's degree in computer science. You're absolutely correct. Print one on a computer of the magazine. And I'm telling you how to do it. Second thing you do is you email that to every unit. At that unit level, they print it. You push the button. You don't have to do anything. Now, you can have different colored papers and this and that and the other, but it's a simple problem to answer, but nobody yet has said a damn thing about how you're going to do these things. It's just, I think we ought to do this. Baloney. I think we ought to do this, and this is how I want to see it done. Okay, approved.
Thank you, Kim. Any other commentary?
Is the motion before the floor the motion that is printed in the agenda?
In the adjusted agenda.
The proposed motion, lifeline assembly and production, is to be moved to partners in association management effective immediately.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten to that item yet. I believe that Basil is asking for a board approval to accept the proposal from partners, which we only received, I believe,
Friday.
Was it late yesterday or yesterday?
No, yesterday.
Has a motion been made yet?
Yeah.
So can
It's
we
in the process.
Has the motion been seconded?
Yes, it has.
Vote on accepting Bennett's proposal.
Mr. Chair, Liz Tidyman here. Are you yet taking questions and comments from people who aren't board members?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Let's let the board go through first. Can we
Great.
come back to you? We'll come back to you. Are there any other board members that want to comment on this motion? And I'm not sure.
I have a question.
I want to call the motion.
Okay.
Yes, good.
Well, wait, I think Gene Hurley and Liz Tidyman want to speak to it.
That's it. We need to listen to both. But Gene was talking, and then we'll come back to Liz if I caught the motion right. Were you finished, Gene?
You can't come back to a call for the motion.
No, my question.
That's Basil had to answer the phone so he gets some information. Anyway, I have called the motion.
Well, Kim, with due respect, I want to hear all voices, not just the limited ones. I would like to hear from Jean Hurley and Liz Tidyman. I don't think that will delay your lunch too much.
My question is, the third quarterly issue will now be published by and edited by Bennett's office, not by me. Is that correct? If this motion passes.
It will be done by partners.
So they will gather the information and put it in a published form. That's fine. Third quarterly issue is no longer in my hands. It's in Bennett's hands if this motion passes.
That's correct.
But I think, just as clarification, the proof copy from the editor or editorial board, this doesn't relieve us from responsibility for input.
Well, the message from the president will go to Bennett's office now.
Yes, it would.
Jack Cummings' article will now be forwarded to Bennett's office. You'll take care of these things. You'll see that Bennett gets everything that was sent to me to be in this third quarter issue instead of.
Aren't you glad to have them working on it? My Indiana syntax is tough.
I still called the question.
But we want to hear from Liz.
Liz Tidyman?
Yeah.
Liz?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate your graciousness, but a board member did call the question, and I choose not to speak at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think if the question has been called, we have to honor that. We can't follow Robert's Rules of Order sometime when it's
not the other, yeah.
All right. So to call the question is to call for the vote. Is that correct?
That is
correct.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
Who are
Gotta
the
get
no-
the names. What are the names?
I want to get the number of no's.
3 to 2.
Huh?
Who are the no's? They were all.
All we need to do is identify the names.
Nicholson voted no, so we can hear everybody.
Okay.
Who else was no?
Who is no?
Who else?
Yes. We have one no, and the rest of the board is, are there any abstains? If there are none, the motion carries.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, what's next on the agenda?
I'm going back to the beach.
The next item on the agenda is the board implementation, which we kind of preempted the beginning of that. Are you ready to speak to that, Ms. Ruth?
Well, I'm just taken aback here. All I know, yes, is that the committee is meeting on Friday for a phone conference. And given what has just happened, we will then make the plan for the distribution of subsequent copies of part of the Lifeline. And one of the questions that we have to think about is the color. That was one of the several suggestions people made. But I am, traditionally our colors have been that great rich green and the black and white, as opposed to gold and stuff. So those kind of issues we're going to be looking at. But truly what we are after is, as you know, the objectives is to create a very coherent, cohesive information sheet, not only for CCRC's residents, but also future residents, as well as their families and friends. So it's really a task that we have accepted, but it's going to be a work in progress. But I appreciate your confidence that between us and partners, we're going to put this together, and we will have some very professional documents to tell our story.
Can you identify the members of your editorial board group?
The editorial board at this moment is Ruth Walsh as chair, Jean Hurley, Kim Barkley, who's with Partners, Martha Marks, who declined, and Mark Morovitz, Basil Flum, Jack Cumming. And I had asked Marlene Varner if she would just sort of be an advisor, and I have to see how she's doing physically after her surgery, but I'm hoping that she will at least have some input. And those are the members of the committee.
Ruth, did I hear you say there was a declination?
Yes, Martha Marks.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
I will pursue that again and see if she would change her mind.
Okay. Well, the problem is that some of the objectives really, I think, require her input. So we'll see. Jack, do you have anything to add to the editorial board implementation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What did you?
I've just asked if Jack had anything to add to
Oh,
that.
no, I think that's clear.
Okay. Any other commentary on the editorial board before we leave that?
And any suggestions that anyone has, we're very open to receive your correspondence, and we'll work on it. But it's going to be, as I say, a very great work in progress. And so just stand back and we'll produce for us.
Or join in too, even better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the next item on the agenda is dues and membership. I really don't have anything in addition to what I covered earlier, which is all laid out on the Excel sheet that we talked to. But I did want to add just a brief comment on the thing that was brought up regarding our trifold. We probably do need to put a full court press on getting those packages out, because it becomes
absolutely
very difficult to work with. I produced on my own printer about 25 of them that I took with me, and I came back with nothing and had to email the download to a number of people. So that thing does work. People do like it, and we're getting a lot of interest. I got a cold call from one of the Air Force communities a couple days ago, very interested in NaCCRA and what we do in the Washington, D.C. area. So
that would be wonderful.
I think it would really be helpful. So I'm hoping that we can enlist some people, but we do have to equip them with the necessary data to outreach to members.
Yeah.
From the Village on the Green community, we have a package we're trying to make pretty. I think that's the way you put it, Jack. Put together a package that can be emailed to anybody and reproduced locally. That will allow people to talk to different elements. It'll have to be updated, tailored to the individual units, but I think it's based on what we were able to do in the 7 minutes here, 7 meetings we had here. So I really believe we can grow membership substantially. I'm going to close with that unless somebody has any questions. We've also modified, I think we've covered the topic of agreement with partners and association management. Are there any other commentaries on partners that need to be made at this time? All about committee reports. Membership committee's been handled. I think editorial committee's been handled. Are there any other reports? Finance has been handled.
Well, there was a report on the agenda here on the membership administration, and I just all I'd say to that is that we gave a link to the board to the video discussion. The developer that we're working with is in Thailand, but he's English, and you'll be able to understand him. And so there's a link to a video discussion with him, and if you have an interest in that, you can pursue that. The next step will be to develop a prototype system that we'll be able to stress test, and all of the board will be expected to try to work with that prototype to stress test it as best we can. And we're going to get all the resources that we can, including outsiders, to work to make sure that that thing works as it's supposed to before we go live with it.
Jack, this is Walt. I did watch that with some detail, and I had 3 comments on it on the first run through. I'm going to do it again, but I'll send you an email with these anyway. First was, if you're already a member, how do you establish an ID and a password? That didn't seem to be covered. Another one was, if someone who is single passes away and a third party wants to call in and tell them, you know, that has happened, there probably needs to be some means of verification for that possibility. And the third one I thought is that if we're going to use PayPal, maybe we could use it for contributions as well. And there ought to be a spot for contributions using PayPal.
Oh, okay.
Okay, those are all good comments. I'll answer them just quickly so people don't have them lingering. Number one, with ID, it's usual to provide a default ID to people to get them started. It's usually information that's unique to them, involving things like dates of birth, that sort of thing that's in the record. With and then they can go in and change it right thereafter, and that would probably be desirable. That some of that will be the responsibility of the local administrator, probably at the community level. There'll be a lot of activity with that person because we're seeking to empower the community level champion to have the ability to help people with their membership and other things, to give it local. One of the comments that we got from Washington was that they didn't like having to deal with Tallahassee. That was too distant. So we're trying to bring that to the CCRC level. The similar thing would be when people are deceased or whatever. That would be something that local person would be the one who's best informed about, and would be the person we'd look to for that information. Your suggestion about using PayPal for fundraising is one that we've been pursuing, and that will be in place.
Thank you.
Any other comments for Jack? If we go down to item 9, I wanted to point out, and this will be on the agenda for the next meeting. I think these are the first time that at this meeting is the first time you've actually seen the presidential, which is me, priorities laid out for you. Now, there's no magic to that. I mean, that's just from what I've heard. And I'm going to ask at that next meeting, at our next board meeting, for modifications to that and or approval of that, because they really should be, this should read NaCCRA's priorities. This should be NaCCRA's board priorities. And I think that they're what I've heard. I've done it as well as I think I can by saying membership's number 1 and communications, etc. But we need, what we need, I think, is your assent or your correction that these are the things that we need to, this is the direction we need to move. Most of you have said that, but I think we ought to ask for an affirmation of that at the next meeting.
I think that's a good thought.
Go ahead, Ruth. I'm sorry. Ruth, did you have something? Or
no, I just say that's an excellent thought.
But I think
absolutely.
It ought to be ours. It should be NaCCRA's priorities. So
I agree.
That has comments to those, get it back to us. We're actually starting to implement these things, so things are starting to happen. No matter what Kim Barley thinks, there are some things that are happening, and we will begin the action of both committees. I'm really heartened. I hope you have a sense of accomplishment after this. It's a long and sometimes torturous, and not without some pain, but no progress is. And so right now we've chalked up some actions, and I think we've accomplished some. And I'm hopeful we'll start to see those membership numbers grow. And when we announce the Congress and invite people to participate, I think you'll even get more interest. I am looking for champions to go to places and be leaders of acquiring members, especially those places where we have onesies and twosies and individual membership. Realize that 80% of our revenues that we've got come from individual members, and it's up to us to drive those numbers upward. With that, I want to close, and I want to do an acknowledgement of unpaid for advertising, but I spent the 2 nights or 3 nights ago reading through Brad Breeding's book on CCRC. Now, most of you know a lot more, and Jack could have wrote the book on it. But the fact is that this is really a book that I think every potential member, every potential resident of a CCRC ought to take a look at. It is well put together, easy to read, and I think Brad's done a real public service. I'm hopeful he'll come and talk to us in New Orleans, because I think this book is a real contribution to people like me. It probably satisfies most of the 80% I didn't know that should have known when I moved in here. So just for what it's worth taking a look at.
You're the second president to endorse Brad Breeding. Bob, for some reason, Bob, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Bob, what do you think about Brad Breeding?
Well, I want to tell you that Brad Breeding is one who accepted my invitation to come to Indianapolis. He provided a column for us in Lifeline. He contributed $400 to NaCCRA. He is a supporter of NaCCRA, and he would be a great person to write a guest column in the new Lifeline. And I would say count him in to help us in every way we think he could.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think his blogs are marvelous, and I read them all the time, and I commend them to all of you. The book, I'm sure, is just as good.
And this is Ruth. I'm trying to get a hold of Brad. He's not an easy person to get a hold of. You got any Bob, that I could? I have his number, but I can't. He's not responding.
All right, I'll get on it. I'll get on it before sundown, and he will call you in the next 24 hours.
Yeah,
wonderful.
He's not good for the phone. He's a busy man. He responds best to email. He always responds.
Okay.
But with busy people, phone calls always take a long time. And
see. So I have to come into the 21st and 22nd century, but yes, I'll try that. But if you can, Bob, that would be wonderful, and I will attempt again by phone also.
Okay. Are there any other matters that need to come before this august group? I could entertain a motion for adjournment.
Comment from Liz? Does she have anything to say?
Oh yeah, Liz. No, I think she deferred. We did go back to her.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor of adjournment?
Thank you.
Anybody opposed to quitting?
No.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Oh.
We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you.